In the heart of Boston, Daniel Hayes had built a life that many would envy. A stable job as a software engineer, a beautiful wife named Jennifer, and a cozy home in a good neighborhood painted an alluring picture of domestic bliss. For years, Daniel believed he was living the American dream. Each day, he would leave for work with a spring in his step, confident that the foundation he had laid, supporting his family, nurturing his marriage, was unshakable. But beneath this surface of contentment, shadows lurked. They flashed across Jennifer's face when she thought he wasn't looking. The subtle late nights at work morphed into whispered phone calls, and instead of questioning her, Daniel buried that unease under a facade of trust. His aggressive nature, while often a source of strength, blinded him to the cracks forming in his world. One crisp autumn afternoon, as leaves danced in the wind, Daniel's life shattered without warning. He had decided to surprise Jennifer by picking her up from an office gathering, a casual event that was supposedly going to run late. As he approached the venue, a sharp intuition gripped him tight, forcing him to park and approach the building on foot. Each step whispered caution and excitement. Entering the room, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses hit like a tidal wave. Scanning the crowd, his heart sank. There, in the center, Jennifer stood, her hand resting suggestively on the shoulder of a man known to Daniel only as Mark, his challenger. The tension in the air thickened, and every fiber of his being warned him to turn away, but the anger surged. Time felt frozen as he witnessed her lean against Mark, her laughter ringing out like bells of betrayal, while he casually fed her affection through sweet nothings. As if summoned by vengeance itself, Daniel strode forward, eyes locked on the pair. He sensed their frivolity evaporate as they spotted him, the blood draining from their faces. "Daniel, Jennifer stammered, while Mark awkwardly straightened up, his smugness wilting under Daniel's fierce glare. The laughter receded into whispered scoffs as people turned to observe the unfolding drama. For a heartbeat too long, there was silence. Then, the world erupted. Daniel bared his teeth, a smile devoid of warmth. "So this is where you've been spending my trust," he seethed, the room echoing with his outrage. The weight of his words hung heavily, a frost settling as conversation stifled. People began to pay attention to the spectacle. "You don't understand," Jennifer pleaded, the facade of control slipping away. "It's not what it seems." Daniel's laugh was devoid of humor, more like a growl. "Not what it seems? That's rich coming from you." A cruel smile twisted on his lips as he stepped closer, diverting his glare toward Mark. "And you," he hissed. "I should have known better than to trust a wolf in sheep's clothing. How does it feel to be discovered, you coward?" The room turned electric as gasps echoed along with hushed whispers at the audacity of the public confrontation. A tide of disdain washed over Daniel for the two people he had once loved and trusted. Mark shuffled back, desperate to escape the relentless spotlight. Daniel leveraged this humiliation moment by moment, demonstrating his power. "Let me make something clear. You've just thrown your life away with a pathetic woman who doesn't know the meaning of loyalty." He could feel the energy shift. Voices arose in hushed condemnation, cutting deeper than he had imagined. He saw Jennifer's eyes pleading for sympathy from the onlookers, but her words fell flat, stripped of their allure, drowned by whispers of contempt. She was losing her allies, one by one, as people began to step back, gripping their drinks, pretending to overlook her. But Daniel, emboldened by their reactions, pushed forward. "You think I would feel sorry for you?" he shouted, his voice igniting the atmosphere. "You should feel sorry for not being enough, for belittling what we built." With that climactic crescendo cutting through the room, Jennifer realized her world was crumbling. As silent judgment filled the air, she stood alone on stage, once the queen, now rendered a pariah. Daniel's aggressive demeanor slowly boiled over into something more sinister, a calculated plan of revenge that churned within his newly hardened heart. He was no longer just a victim of betrayal. He had transformed into a force. Marching out of that room, the thrill of power surged through him like electric current. There would be consequences. Real consequences for Jennifer and Mark. As the door swung closed behind him, Daniel took a deep breath, ready to dismantle their lives brick by brick. His heart raced with anticipation, a hungry beast awakened. And he reveled in it. In the days following the confrontation, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. The public humiliation he had orchestrated ignited something primal within him. He was no longer just a man grieving his marriage. He was a predator, sharp and relentless, intent on stripping the veneer of respectability from Jennifer and Mark. Ideas of retribution took root in his mind. He would expose them, leaving them with nothing but the remnants of their shameful choices. Jennifer had always prided herself on her image, carefully curated among her friends and colleagues. That image was about to be decimated. Daniel thrust himself into planning, every moment consumed by thoughts of how to unleash his vengeance. He started by combing through their joint finances, sifting through bank statements, credit card bills, and subscriptions to pinpoint where her indiscretions lay. It wasn't long before Daniel discovered irregular activities on the shared credit card. Payments to a luxurious hotel where Jennifer would meet Mark, dining receipts filled with exorbitant food and drinks, enough to make anyone cringe at the frivolity of it all. While Jennifer had spent their money on whims, Daniel worked tirelessly to ensure she would pay for her sins. He meticulously documented every transaction, readying himself for the war ahead. It wasn't just about financial ruin. No, Daniel's intention was much deeper. He needed to dismantle her social standing and reputation brick by brick, using her own friends to turn against her. The night of the confrontation had planted seeds of doubt in the minds of their social circle. They expected he'd simply fade away, but he would do the opposite. Daniel was becoming a storm. With each passing day, he gathered what felt like an arsenal of evidence, screenshots of texts that were all too incriminating. "I can't wait to see you tonight," she had written, blissfully ignorant that he would unearth these fragments. It was more than just words. It was proof of betrayal, crafted intimacy, torn apart with every heart-stopping revelation. But emotional prowess wasn't all he wielded. He had connections of his own. One of Daniel's co-workers, a tech-savvy legal assistant, decided to keep him informed of Jennifer's growing troubles at work. Complaints about her performance skyrocketed, a direct result of the swirling rumors surrounding her actions. The workplace, once a safe haven for her, became a boiling pot of contempt. Daniel knew he had to kick the storm into high gear. He staged meetings with both friends and colleagues. He shared his discoveries, each line of text, every receipt carefully laid out, turning them into compelling evidence of betrayal. The whispers he had heard after the confrontation were now roaring laughs, with people shaking their heads in disbelief over what had once been seen as a perfect couple. Daniel was methodical, becoming an architect of their demise. At a party hosted by mutual friends, Daniel made sure his presence was known. He maneuvered through the group, casually catching people's eyes before finding himself beside Jennifer. Her face paled as he approached, tension thickening the air around them. She pulled at her dress, her laugh, a hollow response to the organic repulsion building within the crowd. "Hey everyone," Daniel called out. "Mind if I take a moment of your time?" The room quieted, curiosity peaking as he shifted from an ex-husband into a master of ceremonies, controlling the narrative. "I thought we could shed some light on loyalty and fidelity tonight." Gasps, whispers, and furtive glances ran rife with anticipation as he pulled out his phone and displayed a series of messages, each ringing out like a bell, punctuating his triumph. "Here's a little something I came across. Quite heartfelt, don't you think?" he continued as the explicit confession slithered across the screen. The laughter and chatter evaporated, replaced with stunned silence. The realization hit harder than Daniel anticipated. It wasn't just scandal. It was a funeral for Jennifer's social standing. "Isn't it amazing how these digits bought the affection someone couldn't give at home?" he spat. The blood drained from her face, and Daniel smiled, feeling the power surge through him. Jennifer's attempts to defend her actions fumbled like a drowning swimmer grasping for air. Friends turned their backs, unable to reconcile who she had become versus the facade she had kept so well maintained. The glances of judgment only solidified her isolation. And as Daniel reveled in the crumbling of her world, he observed Mark watch from a distance, helpless and humiliated. Meanwhile, as news of Jennifer's unraveling reached the countless social groups they frequented, Mark realized that being a part of her circle no longer guaranteed him any safety. Daniel's coiled revenge had ensnared them both, and as their lives burned down, Mark's desperate calls to stay relevant fell on deaf ears. His reputation was crushed beneath the weight of his own shortcomings. The affection that had seemingly flourished in the shadows transformed into a perceived liability, isolating him. Within weeks, they had both lost their jobs, cancellation of contracts and public shame stripping them of value and recognition. Daniel's calculated maneuvers bore fruit, and satisfaction bloomed in knowing he was in control. Finally, the climax approached. His carefully orchestrated revenge was nearly complete. As he prepared to finalize the legal documents, thoughts raced through his mind. The divorce papers, the demands for child support, everything would be a final nail in their coffins. He knew he would take everything from Jennifer, her status, her savings, her dignity, and most importantly, her children. The storm Daniel had unleashed was just beginning, and the finale would be a performance worthy of a theater. As he stared at the documents, the power surged through him. This was merely the intricate dance of destruction, and he planned to command the stage. As Daniel sat at his dimly lit kitchen table, each stroke of his pen on the divorce papers felt like an echo of finality. The meticulous detailing of every asset, debt, and the custody arrangements poured out of him effortlessly, fueled by a burgeoning sense of liberation. He was erasing the remnants of a life stained by betrayal, and in doing so, he was reclaiming his identity. The identity Jennifer had sought to dismantle. Every night, he churned through intricate financial documents, poring over details that would ensure he emerged from the ashes of their relationship completely intact. Her overspending, frivolous habits, and unaccounted trips with Mark all formed the backbone of his attack. Each revelation was a building block of his triumph, and with them, Daniel crafted a strategy that would leave Jennifer defenseless. The day to deliver those divorce papers arrived, and Daniel felt a pulsating thrill as the appointed time approached. The air was thick with anticipation, his pulse racing as he prepared to watch her world collapse entirely. He had decided to catch her off guard. Confrontation had always held a certain allure, and he couldn't resist that final act of public unmasking. Daniel arrived at her workplace, his heart thundering in his chest. The office lobby was bustling with the energy of friendly banter and congenial multitasking. But as he gazed around, his nerves solidified into something steely and determined. He navigated through the reception area, making his way toward Jennifer's office, where she sat with her back turned, immersed in her work. The door swung open with a soft creak that cut through her focus. She turned, the confusion morphing into wide-eyed shock. "Daniel?" she stammered, feeling every employee in the room shift toward the unfolding scene. "Surprise, Jennifer," he declared, stepping into the room like a maestro taking center stage. "I thought we could celebrate the end of an era." His voice dripped with sarcasm, and as he pulled out the neatly organized papers from his briefcase, the room fell silent, eyes flicking back and forth, gauging the tension mounting in the air. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, attempting to maintain some semblance of authority. But Daniel could see the cracks beginning to form in her facade, the way her fingers trembled slightly as she shifted her gaze from the papers to his face. "Delivering a little news," he replied coolly. "I figured it was time you saw these." He laid the divorce papers on her mahogany desk, the stark white sheets contrasting the polished wood like a scream in a quiet room. Jennifer's breath caught. Her stomach churned as she leaned in to read the clauses, disbelief washing over her features. "You can't be serious," she said, but her voice quivered. "This is insane." "Insanity. No. This is clarity," Daniel countered sharply. "You see, this isn't just about the ending of our marriage. It's about accountability. You wanted to dance with fire, but now you'll find you're burned, There was both satisfaction and an unexpected thrill in seeing her unravel. He watched as her facade shattered, eyes brightening with panic and realization. "You don't have to do this," she implored, desperation creeping into her voice as she searched for any excuse that might sway him. "I'll make it right. Just give me another chance." "What could you possibly offer that could convince me?" he shot back. "Your unfaithfulness ruined everything we built together. Do you think these papers are just for divorce? They lay out how I'll fight for our children's future, while you're left standing here, a ghost of your former self." A stunned silence hung in the air, heavy with finality. Daniel reveled in the chaos he had sown, the emotional weight pushing against her as her colleagues cautiously remained, fascinated by the drama unfolding before them. Friends whispered in the hall, drawn to the spectacle of vulnerability interwoven with humiliation. "It's too late, Jennifer. I'm not interested in your hollow promises, especially after what I uncovered." He gestured toward her computer, suggesting the undertones of their shared life that had been meticulously curated over years, now turning against her. "No one will believe you. They will see you as the villain in this story," she shot back defensively, trying to regain control over the narrative they had both contributed to. Her anger masked her despair, but the more she lashed out, the harder the truth of her actions pressed down upon her. "Believe me," he said, voice low and menacing, "they'll watch you fall. They'll relish your implosion. This isn't a fairy tale. This is real life, and it's going to be a public spectacle." Tears welled in her eyes, and in that moment, Daniel felt only satisfaction. He had dissected her life, dismantled all she had held dear, leaving her exposed. She reached for him, her voice breaking. "We can fix this, Daniel. Please don't do this." His chuckle was cold, devoid of any warmth. "Fix? You destroyed it the second you decided to betray what we had. You think a touch of regret can fix an unfinished painting? No. It's a canvas forever marred by your choices." The room seemed to constrict around them, and in that moment, every colleague was a witness to her humiliation. It was not just Daniel who was on trial. It was Jennifer, bearing the brunt of the truth as she crumpled under the weight of her actions. Daniel savored the power. The public exposure of her deceit felt like a sweet nectar. With a final flourish, he gathered the papers and placed them back into his briefcase. "I'll be waiting for your signature, Jennifer. But don't forget, our children will see you for who you really are." And with that, he turned on his heel, departing from the office and leaving her drowning in the aftermath of her choices. The echoes of their confrontation trailed behind him, a powerful reminder of how swiftly trust can erode and how vengeance can feel like justice. Daniel stepped outside into the brisk air, exhaling deeply, a weight lifted from his shoulders. He had taken her power, shattered her illusion, and in doing so, he had reclaimed his own. As he walked away, a renewed determination surged within him. This battle was nearing its end, but the war against betrayal remained alive, keeping him eager for what was to come. The days following the confrontation in Jennifer's office felt exhilarating for Daniel. As he navigated the streets of Boston, the weight of betrayal slowly transformed into a sense of relentless empowerment. He reveled in the knowledge that he had orchestrated her public humiliation and set in motion a series of events that would leave her life in shambles. This was not merely a divorce, it was a reclamation of his autonomy and self-worth. The divorce papers had sparked a wildfire in their social circle. Whispers of Jennifer's infidelities echoed in the break rooms and coffee shops where they once laughed together, transforming those familiar spaces into arenas of judgment. Daniel had successfully turned their friends, once allies of their union, into witnesses and, more importantly, detractors of her fall from grace. It was calculated, it was brutal, but every moment of distress on her face only fueled his resolve to burn everything she held dear to the ground. One chilly evening, Daniel found himself sitting at his favorite bar, lost in thought, when a familiar face slid onto the stool beside him. It was Claire, a former colleague of Jennifer's, who had reached out to offer support. Although Claire's intentions seemed benign, Daniel noted the cautious gleam in her eyes. "I can't believe what happened at the office," she remarked, her voice hushed as if afraid someone might overhear. "I always saw you two as the perfect couple. I had no idea Jennifer was, well, that way." He couldn't help but smirk. Funny how people put on masks, isn't it? He took a sip of his whiskey, absorbing the burn as it flowed down his throat. "You think you know someone until reality comes crashing down." Claire leaned in, her tone shifting from sympathetic to conspiratorial. "I heard rumors that a lot of people are turning against her. She's been pretty much ostracized at work." "Good," Daniel smirked, feeling the satisfaction surge through him. "She deserves every ounce of isolation she experiences. Every friend that turns their back is just one more piece of justice in a shattered world." "Do you blame her for everything?" Claire's voice lingered with a hint of concern, as if she still hoped to pull back the curtain on their relationship. He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. She made her choices. She chose infidelity over honesty, and now she gets to reap what she sowed. There are consequences, you know? Claire nodded, yet there was something in her gaze that hinted at a deeper inquiry, a flicker of doubt escalating. "I just hope this doesn't turn too dark for you, Daniel. It can be a slippery slope." Was it concern or sympathy? He almost scoffed. As if she ever cared about the slope. This isn't about being the bigger person, it's about survival. As their conversation dwindled, Daniel finished his drink and excused himself, the weight of the unresolved conversation lingering with him. He knew he was at a tipping point, one where he could either wallow in the bitterness or reclaim the trajectory of his own future. With divorce proceedings looming, he dove headfirst into familiar waters, the legal world. Financial analysts spoke of hidden assets. Daniel's newfound knowledge became a formidable weapon. He scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney, Meredith, who was highly regarded for taking on high-profile cases. "Let's go for the throat," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. "We'll aim to secure a settlement that won't just rid you of her, but ensure she knows that betrayal comes at a steep cost." In that meeting, a plan began to map itself out. They discussed not only child custody but alimony, how to establish Jennifer's financial irresponsibility while tying it back to her affair. Daniel hadn't just lost a wife. He intended to dismantle the life she had crafted post-betrayal, removing every ounce of stability she had worked towards. Over the following weeks, Daniel prepared for battle. He gathered evidence from Jennifer's excesses, including witnesses who could attest to her reckless spending during her affair. Each piece became a thread in the fabric of his case, building a tapestry that highlighted her moral failing and irresponsibility. Finally, the day of the court hearing arrived. Daniel walked into the courthouse with Meredith at his side, adrenaline coursing through him. As they sat in the waiting area, he saw Jennifer enter, her face a mask of defiance, while underneath it betrayed the turmoil she felt. It was clear she was struggling to maintain control, and Daniel felt a cold thrill, a sense of victory bubbling to the surface. As they stepped into the courtroom, the tension was palpable. Legal jargon filled the air, and with each assertion made during the hearings, Daniel felt a rush. The satisfaction of watching Jennifer squirm under cross-examination was paradise. Meredith laid out evidence, witnesses testified, and Daniel's heart raced with each confession that revealed Jennifer's duplicity. "Is it true, Mrs. Hayes, that you had multiple hotel stays while using the household credit cards?" one lawyer inquired. The courtroom buzzed, eyes darting between Daniel and Jennifer. The look on her face shifted from defiance to sheer horror, and the reality of the situation began to manifest in the courtroom. Jennifer tried to downplay her actions, but Daniel marveled at how her failures were unraveling in front of everyone, like a novel worthy of a bestseller. Finally, it came to a head. Under the mounting scrutiny of evidence and public sentiment, the judge's ruling was swift. As the gavel struck down, Daniel felt every ounce of resentment evaporate. He had emerged not just unscathed, but victorious. His children would remain with him. His financial stake in their lives would be protected. And Jennifer, a mere shadow of her former self, was left to contend with a reality she had orchestrated, Exiting the courthouse into the bright afternoon light, he took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp air, feeling the weight of revenge finally settle into a sense of victorious closure. No more games. No more manipulation. Daniel Hayes had reclaimed his life, and as he stepped forward, he felt empowered, ready to carve out a future on his own terms. The war was over, but Daniel was just getting started. As the days turned into weeks following the court ruling, the aftermath of Daniel's victory settled into a new rhythm. The chaos of the divorce had settled, but its shadow loomed wide across his life and the lives of those he once loved. The excitement of his triumph began to blend with somber reflections on what had been lost. Although he had emerged victorious, the journey to reclaim his happiness was just beginning. Daniel had secured the custody of his children, Zoe and Ben, an undeniable bright spot amidst the storm. They had been the reason he fought tooth and nail to expose Jennifer's betrayal. He yearned to protect their future from the fallout of their mother's choices. Yet each night as he tucked them into bed, he felt a haunting emptiness. The echo of laughter that once filled their home now felt like an occasional visitor. As he adjusted to his new life as a single father, he immersed himself in their activities. Daniel sought to make memories that would overshadow the darkness left by their mother's actions. Weekends became adventures filled with bike rides along the Charles River, soccer games in the park, and movie nights at home. He had transformed into a dad who didn't just provide for them financially, but emotionally invested in their happiness. A stark contrast to how Jennifer had become more of a ghost in their lives. Despite the nurturing atmosphere he cultivated, whispers of Jennifer's plight reached him, painted in various shades of concern. Friends would occasionally inform him of her mortification, the mockery she faced at work, and the fallout from her former social circle. Daniel had no desire to gloat, yet the notion that Jennifer's life had crumbled under the weight of her choices painted a shadow of satisfaction. For a fleeting moment, he considered reaching out, perhaps to smooth over ruffled feathers for the sake of the children. But the vision of her laughing in the arms of another man crushed those thoughts. She had burned those bridges, and Daniel wasn't one to forgive. Soon it became clear that the vacuum left by Jennifer would not just linger, it would create ripples throughout their lives. The kids had questions about their mother, attempting to navigate the fractured reality she had created. Zoe would voice her disappointment, wondering aloud why their mother didn't care enough to fight for them. In those moments, Daniel's heart fractured anew. Burdened by truths, he wished he could spare them. "Dad, why doesn't Mom want to hang out with us?" Zoe asked, her eyes wide with innocence, the betrayal woven into her words. "They don't always understand what they've done wrong, sweetheart," he replied softly, feeling every syllable weigh heavy upon his chest. "Some people make choices that hurt others. It doesn't mean we aren't loved." The thought of Jennifer's indifference knotted his stomach, yet he made a vow. He would be the father who stayed. Flashes of resentment clawed at him, but there was no point in dwelling on the bitter. The focus needed to shift toward building resilience within his children, ensuring they grew to be emotionally secure despite the tragedy they had to face. Then came an unexpected moment of reckoning. One afternoon, Daniel settled into the local cafe, a casual meeting point for parents and the small community he had grown into. As he scanned the menu, he spotted Claire sitting at a nearby table, absorbed in paperwork. Their previous conversation about Jennifer replayed in his mind. The concern had echoed beneath the surface. In a surge of confidence, he decided to approach her. "Mind if I join?" he asked, gesturing toward the empty chair. "Of course." Claire smiled, her enthusiasm genuine. "How are the kids?" "They're adapting," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "But there are moments they ask about their mother. It's hard watching them miss someone who chose to disappear." She nodded empathetically, leaning forward. "You're doing an incredible job, Daniel. I hear the way you talk about them, and it's clear you're all they need." "Thank you," he said, his expression softening. "I've been working hard to keep their spirits up, but I can't help but feel like I'm in a constant battle." "And you're winning," she assured him, her voice a soothing balm to his nerves. "It's not easy, but you've already laid the groundwork for a new life. You just need to embrace it. Daniel felt an urge to confide as they talked, to reveal his scars, the way betrayal had altered his sails. He shared snippets of their life before the storm, moments that made their family vibrant, and the values he wanted to instill in his children. Each confidence shared bordered on vulnerability. But he found comfort in Claire's presence, realizing he was no longer alone on this journey. As they parted ways, he felt a flicker of hope burgeon beneath the weight of guilt and grief. Perhaps now was the time to rebuild, not just as a father, but as a man seeking genuine connection. Although his previous life lay in ruins, the future brimmed with possibility. Days turned to weeks as Claire and Daniel found themselves meeting more frequently. Coffee runs transformed into evening walks, and soon enough a tentative friendship blossomed into something richer, an undeniable bond forged through shared experiences, understanding, and laughter. For the first time, Daniel began to embrace the notion of companionship again. The shadows of his past faded gently with each smile that crept into his life. Yet still, Jennifer lingered at the edges of his mind, a specter refusing to be silenced. The guilt and anger became a heavy anchor, a reminder of the chaos their lives had ensued. With every like he saw on social media or casual mention from friends about her latest struggles, he found himself teetering between temptation and resolve. He had made the conscious choice to avert his eyes from that chapter, but shadows drew him back, a morbid curiosity. One day, while scrolling through a news article on local events, he spotted an image of Jennifer at a charity gala, a shimmering figure lost in flashes of flashbulbs and smiles. His gut tightened. She appeared polished, radiant even, wrapped in the adoration of endorsements that echoed through social media. It struck him how effortlessly she had reclaimed her past life, seemingly untouched by the wreckage she had caused. Frustration bubbled within him. How could she stand in that guise, while the fallout affected their children so deeply? That she could smile in public while their family lay fractured ignited his anger anew. But deep inside, he knew he had the ultimate control. This was his journey, his healing, one that couldn't stain itself on the whims of how she chose to present her life. This was about standing tall amidst the rubble, the call to rise above. As thoughts swirled around him, he sought clarity, hoping to open new avenues through the power of one-on-one discussions and maintaining healthy relationships. He had reclaimed the narrative, and the path ahead could only be forged by him, not by her or anyone else. Daniel squared his shoulders. Healing would come not born from chains of past betrayals, but from his willingness to move forward with fierce determination. He was not just a man who survived the storms. He could build something new, stronger than what had been lost. Determined, he would no longer allow the ghost of the past to haunt him. He would seize this opportunity, claiming the future he envisioned, for himself and for the children who needed him most. With each passing day, Daniel felt more anchored in his decision to step forward, leaving behind the turmoil that Jennifer had orchestrated in their lives. As weeks melded into months, he concentrated on crafting a vibrant life filled with love, laughter, and growth. The laughter of Zoe and Ben echoed through their home, a sound that became a reminder of what mattered most. The family had endured the storm and come out stronger. Daniel's relationship with Claire deepened, evolving into a blossoming romance. It was something unexpected yet incredibly refreshing, a partnership forged from mutual understanding and respect. Her laughter brightened his darkest days, effortlessly weaving warmth into the fabric of his new normal. Claire became a steadfast presence. They shared dreams, hopes, and even fears. But unlike before, they learned to build each other up instead of tearing each other down. As they explored local parks and beaches, he felt the tension within him begin to dissolve. Claire was there for all of it, from coaching Zoe's soccer team to baking cookies with Ben for their school's bake sale. He hadn't just found a partner, he had found a collaborator in rebuilding the essence of family that felt broken. Watching her interact with his children brought a warmth to his heart that felt foreign yet exhilarating. In quiet moments, however, Daniel's past would cloud his mind. Images of Jennifer occasionally flickered through his thoughts, a reminder of betrayal that still stung. He could easily recall the warmth of family dinners that had devolved into conflict, and how that warmth had turned into betrayal, leaving a chilling void. The contrast with Claire sometimes left him feeling vulnerable. He was a man who had endured and wasn't sure there was room in his heart for mistakes again. Then came the day that would change everything. After yet another successful weekend of family activities, Daniel returned home to find a message from an unknown number. Curiosity pulsed through him as he opened it, revealing a simple yet jarring text. A photo of Jennifer sitting alone in a restaurant, her once vibrant expression now replaced by shadows of regret. Feeling compelled by a mix of anger and empathy, Daniel hesitated before replying. The urge to confront her waged battle with the peace he had fought so hard to cultivate. Just as the tension reached a boiling point, another text chimed in. "Can we talk? I need to apologize." The request hung in the air like a dark cloud on an otherwise clear day. He couldn't deny a part of him that was enticed by the chaos it represented. Why now, after months of ducking responsibility? He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within. The woman who had hurt him beyond measure was reaching out, and every fiber of his being warned him against letting her back in. But was this a chance to close that door for good? To finally put the ghosts to rest? Daniel found himself in a quandary. Could he truly have a conversation with her without losing sight of how far he had come? The thought lingered, but the kids needed stability. They couldn't see him shaken and vulnerable again by what Jennifer had wrought. Still, the curiosity held tightly. After weighing it in his mind for an entire day, he decided to meet her, if only to finally gain closure. On the day of their meeting, Daniel steeled himself as he approached the cafe where he had first encountered Claire. The familiar setting now felt heavy with the promise of confrontation. When he entered, his eyes effortlessly spotted Jennifer, sitting at a small table by the window, her fingers wrapped around a cup that had long gone cold. The years weighed heavily on her. She had the same striking hair, but her eyes bore a tiredness that was new. It was disconcerting to witness this woman, the person who had once filled his life with hope, now dulled by her choices. "Daniel," she managed, her voice trembling as he approached. Thank you for meeting me." He took a seat across from her, but resisted the urge to engage in pleasantries. "What do you want, Jennifer?" The gruffness dripped from his voice, masked behind a wall he had built for himself. "I wanted to apologize. No excuses." Her eyes glistened, and he realized she was serious. "I've been selfish and reckless, and I've hurt you and the kids in ways I can never take back." The admission hung between them, an acknowledgement he had waited for, but it was tinged with a sweetness he hadn't expected. "It's too late for regret," he replied, his tone stark. "You've done irreparable damage. The children, they shouldn't have to grapple with your choices." Jennifer nodded solemnly, her shoulders sagging as she sank deeper into her seat, as if physically absorbing the weight of her actions. "I know. I'm aware of their pain. I never wanted to burden them with this. I thought I could find happiness elsewhere, and I realize now I was wrong." "I thought you'd never want to see me again." "Because I don't," he replied sharply, but then softened. "You were their mother, and I can't strip that away from them. But I can't forget what you've done." Tears brimmed in her eyes, and Daniel couldn't ignore the flash of vulnerability that humanized her, even amid his anger. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I hope for a chance at redemption. My life spiraled, and I lost myself. I let everything get away from me. I still love them, and I just want to prove to you and them that I can change." He studied her face, gauging the truth in her words. "What makes you think anyone would trust you again?" "Because I'm trying to make amends. I've enrolled in counseling, and I want to help at the kids' school. I want to show them I can be a better person." Daniel hesitated, feeling the torn edges of loyalty and anger wrestle within him. Intentions are one thing. Actions are another. Show them through your actions, Jennifer. We're not just talking about you or me anymore. It's about Zoe and Ben. Her nod came slowly after a moment of silence. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." I know I can't erase what I've done, but I want to be a part of their lives again. I can't bear to be their ghost." As the conversation unfolded, Daniel recognized a flicker of hope bathed in bittersweet reality. He had rebuilt his life without her, had mended the fabric of his family. The children thrived. But watching the remorse flicker in Jennifer's eyes ignited a thought he couldn't ignore. Perhaps the road to healing could be a path they both traversed, albeit diverging. "I can't control your actions, Jennifer," he stated firmly. "Your relationship with the kids is your responsibility. They will have to decide what they want from you. You will earn your place in their lives if you show them that you're serious about change. Until then, this is where we stand. I won't have the past hinder their future." With that, Daniel stood, walking toward the door, feeling an unexpected lightness seep into his chest. It was a new beginning, uncertain and undefined. For the first time since their chaotic split, Daniel felt a cautious optimism as he stepped into the world. The ghosts of yesterday lingered at the corner, but he had taken a step toward hope. Redemption wasn't just possible. It was a path he could navigate while letting go of the past. A path that could offer possibilities untold. He took a deep breath, absorbing the moment, knowing he had the power to guide not just his destiny, but also the future of his children, while remaining steadfast in his journey to reclaim joy and love. Daniel knew the road would twist and turn, but he would remain resolute, always one step ahead. As weeks passed after meeting Jennifer, Daniel could feel the landscape of his life shifting once again. Through her initial attempt to reach out, a door of possibility had cracked open, a door he had long thought shut for good. He found himself wrestling with the implications of her wish to reconnect with the children. The notion of healing was enticing, but he steadfastly reminded himself that trust had to be earned, not given. Meanwhile, his relationship with Claire flourished as they settled into a comfortable rhythm. Their weekends were now painted with spontaneity, fishing trips to nearby lakes, baking adventures that often erupted into flower fights, and cozy movie nights with Zoe and Ben. Claire was a natural with the kids, effortlessly engaging them with her laughter and enthusiasm, crafting bonds that felt genuine and wholesome. Every time he watched Claire interact with Zoe and Ben, a smile stretched across his face. It was comforting to know that love could be reignited in a way he thought was impossible after the heartbreak. However, the gnawing question of Jennifer's potential return cast a shadow over that growing joy. One evening, Daniel sat with Claire over dinner, their conversation flowing easily from topics of work to the kids' increasingly loud and chaotic lives. But as they lingered over dessert, its sweetness felt bittersweet. "Claire, how would you feel about Jennifer trying to see the kids again?" he asked, cautiously testing the waters. A shadow flickered across Claire's face, the mirth momentarily replaced by seriousness. "I believe kids deserve to have both parents. But it's tricky. Trust is fragile. Are you sure this is what's best?" Daniel nodded, appreciating her concern. "I want my children to understand that love can exist, even when people make mistakes. But there's no way I'm letting her waltz back in as if nothing happened. They deserve to choose her on their terms, not because of an apology." Her gaze softened and she placed her hand on his, grounding him. "You have to protect them, Daniel. But if you think they want to try, then it should be on your terms." That resonated deeply. He had fought for his children's emotional security through hell. Trust would take time to rebuild. With that thought in mind, Daniel dialed Jennifer's number, his heart racing as if it had been a long time since he'd done something so audacious. "Daniel," Jennifer's voice came through the line, a mixture of cautious hope and anxiety layered in her tone. "I'm willing to let you meet the kids under strict conditions," he stated firmly, cutting through the pleasantries. "They have to decide if they want to spend time with you. No pressure. If they don't want to see you, then that's the end of the conversation. And if they agree, it will happen in a safe and neutral environment. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes." The sincerity in her voice pierced through the hesitation he felt. It was a moment of clarity, A chance for redemption could also be a moment of reckoning. After their conversation, Daniel sat down with Zoe and Ben, ready to broach the sensitive subject. He could feel his stomach twisting in knots. "Hey, kids," he said, finding the courage that had served him so well through the tumultuous past year. "I wanted to talk to you about your mom." Their faces mirrored curiosity and trepidation. Zoe, always the more perceptive of the two, tilted her head. "Is Mom coming back?" she asked quietly. Daniel took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "She reached out to me. She wants to see you to try and make amends. But it's up to you two if you want to meet her." "But what if she hurts us again?" Ben interjected, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Daniel felt a rush of protectiveness rise within him. "I don't think she would want to. She has been through a lot, and she realizes she made mistakes." "But the choice is yours. It's completely up to you how you want to handle this. No pressure. You can say no if you want." Zoe exchanged glances with Ben, and he could see the wheels turning in their minds. After several moments, Zoe finally spoke up. "I don't want to feel sad again, Dad. But I want to talk to her and see if she really means it." Ben nodded slightly, still hesitant, but supportive of his sister's perspective. "I guess I want to see too, maybe." Daniel smiled, yet his heart felt heavy with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Whether this meeting would help the children process their feelings or add more chaos remained to be seen, but he respected their choice. "Okay then, I'll arrange it. If you feel uncomfortable at any time, you tell me and we'll stop. No questions asked." Over the next few days, Daniel organized a meeting at the local park, a neutral ground where the children could feel safe. He planned it all meticulously, ensuring the area was comfortable and familiar, with swings and laughter echoing around them. With Claire by his side, it felt like a barrier, fortified against potential heartbreak. Finally, the day arrived, and Daniel steeled himself. As they walked to the park, Zoe and Ben held his hands tightly. The children's eyes darted around, uncertain and excited, as the park's activity buzzed around them. He felt their tension tightening the grip on his palms, mirroring his own. When they arrived, Jennifer stood near the entrance, her posture a mix of anticipation and trepidation. She looked different, more vulnerable than he remembered, her confident demeanor shaken. "Hi," she greeted softly as they approached. The moment hung in the air, heavy with expectations, regrets, and unspoken anxieties. "Hey, Mom," Zoe said cautiously, her voice tremulous, while Ben offered a tiny wave, barely lifting his eyes. Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of protection surge, his hands clenched into fists, ready to support his kids through whatever tumult followed. "You can take it from here," he said gently, stepping back just enough to give them space while maintaining a watchful eye. "What do you want to say?" Zoe asked, eyeing her mother with a level of distrust that stung but was deserved. Jennifer inhaled shakily, clearly anticipating their wariness. "I want you both to know how very sorry I am. I made terrible choices, and there is no excuse for what I did. I miss you both every day, and I hope that we can start fresh." Tension enveloped the air, like a simmering pot ready to boil over. Daniel held his breath, observing his children's reactions. Zoe's brow furrowed. "How can we trust you?" she asked, unabashed in her skepticism. "It will take time, I know that. Please give me that chance." "I will be here when you're ready, and I promise to prove my love for you both," Jennifer replied earnestly, placing herself at their mercy. In that moment, Daniel witnessed a delicate flicker of vulnerability within his children, a moment when the innocence of hope mingled with the remnants of hurt. Would they let it flow, or would they hold the pain tight? Zoe turned to Ben, her face a blend of fear and confusion, whispering something he couldn't catch. Daniel's heart raced, bracing for their response. They must navigate through the hurt they had felt, and he knew they could only forge a path with honesty and open dialogue. "Okay," Zoe finally said, breaking the silence, "but we want to make sure you really care this time." The air thickened with unspoken promises and cautious exploration, but in that single exchange, Daniel felt a weight begin to lift. In this moment of uncertainty, hope intertwined with sincerity and the simple act of trying could evolve into something profound. As Jennifer crouched down to their level, offering them a tentative peace offering, Daniel stepped back, allowing the children space to explore this new chapter. While the road ahead was rife with challenges, he felt a flicker of optimism ignite within him. Perhaps this mishmash of fractured emotions could lead to healing, a chance to transform hurt into something more beautiful than he thought possible. The past would always inflict scars, but redemption could pave a new story, one that sought to embrace love, connections, and the beauty of moving forward. Getting their family back, though changed, would be tough. But with love and effort, he hoped they could grow into something stronger, a resilient family determined to thrive amidst the shadows of the past. As the initial anxiety of their meeting faded, Daniel observed the delicate interplay between Jennifer and the children. Zoe and Ben remained cautious, yet curious, a subtle tension simmering just below the surface as Jennifer slowly reached out for a connection. The playground around them buzzed with life, children laughing and playing as parents watched from the sidelines. For Daniel, the vibrant setting felt almost surreal in contrast to the uncertainty that had brought them here. Jennifer knelt slightly, her posture softening, and she offered the kids a small, tentative smile. "I know there's a lot to unpack, and you might have a million questions," she began, her voice trembling yet sincere. "But I'm here to listen, and I just want you to know that I'm ready to put in the work." Ben glanced at his sister, uncertainty flashing across his face. "You say that, but how do we know it's real?" There was a raw honesty in his words that struck Daniel hard, and he felt so proud, his son's vulnerability shining bright amidst the chaos. "It's reasonable to doubt me," Jennifer admitted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I hurt you both, and I can't change that. But I want to show you that I can be different. I'm committed to working on myself. Not just for me, but for us." Zoe, still frowning, looked thoughtfully toward her brother, who seemed just as torn. "If you're serious, we want to see that," she replied, her voice steady but filled with a child's innocent skepticism. "What are you going to do differently?" Daniel watched closely, ready to intervene if the conversation took a stark turn. He felt the protectiveness surge again as Jennifer struggled for her words. This was no simple task. What she was promising required accountability, and for someone who had faltered, that path was often fraught with challenges. "I've started therapy," Jennifer replied, determination lacing her tone. "I'm working on understanding my actions, why I made them, and learning to be a better person. I know it's going to take time to rebuild your trust, and I'm committed to showing you that I can be the mom you deserve." The park erupted in laughter as children barely missed colliding with their parents, brightening Daniel's heart momentarily. Those innocent joys contrasted sharply with the heaviness of their interaction. This was uncharted territory. How could they mend what seemed irreparably broken? "Will you come to our soccer games?" Ben asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as hope edged into his tone. "You used to cheer for us." Daniel clenched his jaw, hope nudging an emotional response from deep inside. Jennifer nodded, a tear trailing down her cheek. "I would love to. I want to be there for every moment, just like I should have been before." That glimmer of hope quickly collided with the fear of the past, the potential for disappointment looming large in Daniel's mind. But he kept his distance, permitting the moment to unfold as the kids navigated through their emotions, seeing if they could approach their mother with an open heart. Zoe stepped forward slightly, her demeanor softening. "If you really mean it, then we just need time. But you have to promise not to disappear again, no matter what happens, okay?" "I promise," Jennifer replied, her voice low and earnest. "No more pretending, no more running away. This is a chance to be real, to be who you need me to be." As they spoke, Daniel felt a heaviness begin to lift. Her words, though emotional, reflected the awareness he had wished for long ago. He could see the spark of motivation blooming, if only faintly. "Can we start with the little things, like maybe if you want to join us for pizza next weekend?" Zoe proposed, almost shyly. Jennifer's eyes brightened and she nodded vigorously. "Absolutely!" "I'd love nothing more." As the conversation continued, Daniel kept a watchful eye, recognizing that while there was a longing for connection, the scars of the past still had threads pulling at them. He needed to be mindful that facilitating this reunion wouldn't erase the hurt they all carried, but could lead to healthier dynamics if everyone moved forward thoughtfully. When they finally stood to leave, Zoe took Ben's hand, and they both looked at their mother, ready to take the plunge into a new chapter. Daniel felt a moment of precarious hope rise within him that perhaps the choices they made today could shape tomorrow, if they allowed remnants of pain to transform through effort. "I'll set up our pizza night," Daniel said with a slight smile, aiming to ease the transition. "I think I've found a great place that serves the best pies in town." Tension eased slightly as the kids exchanged glances, smiles creeping back in as they turned away from their mother. Daniel could sense Jennifer's relief as their initial meeting began to conclude, her face displaying a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Thank you," Jennifer said softly, looking directly at Daniel, "for allowing me this opportunity, for being open. It means everything. I just want to do right by them this time around." As they walked away from the park, Daniel felt a cautious optimism fluttering inside him. He couldn't ignore the lingering doubts, but he also recognized the importance of taking these steps, both for the children's sake and their potential future as a family of sorts. Each tentative interaction, every promise made, was a brick laid in a new foundation. Later that evening, after settling Zoe and Ben into bed, Daniel joined Claire in the family room. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes narrowed with concern and curiosity. "It was complicated," Daniel replied, running a hand through his hair. "They were hesitant, but they gave her a chance. I think they're cautiously hopeful, which is a good sign." Claire frowned slightly, absorbing what he had shared. "And how do you feel about that?" "I'm torn," he admitted. "It's like I want to protect them from the past, but maybe, just maybe, there's a way to navigate this together. I see potential for them to receive closure, but I need to ensure it doesn't hurt them more. And what about you?" "I trust you to make the right choices for them, Daniel," she said softly. "You're doing a great job. But don't forget to take care of your own heart, too. You've come so far. Don't rush into anything that could bring you pain." Her support wrapped around him like a reassuring embrace, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this journey. As conversations shifted, Daniel felt less burdened, the presence of hope saturating his heart, a reflection of healing beginning to take root in the unlikeliest of places. As the threads of their lives wove together, Daniel realized that while the road ahead would not be smooth, striving toward connection and healing was worth every risk. Peering out at the evening sky, he embraced the uncertainty of tomorrow, knowing that with every challenge faced, opportunities awaited those who dared to open their hearts again. And together, they would forge a new path, one rooted in vulnerability and honesty, paving the way for a family yet to be renewed. The days following the meeting with Jennifer felt both cautiously optimistic and heavily laden with uncertainty. Daniel was determined to make this work, not just for his children, but for himself too. He recognized that healing was an ongoing process, one that required patience, effort, and understanding. The journey ahead would involve navigating complex emotions, but he was ready to face it head on. As the weekend approached, Daniel found himself preparing for the upcoming pizza night with a mix of anxiety and excitement. He had chosen a family-friendly restaurant known for its lively atmosphere, and he hoped that being in a social setting would ease the tension in the air. Claire stepped in to help him orchestrate the details, knowing how important this night was for the kids. "I think it'll be fun," Claire said, putting together a tiny bouquet of flowers to bring as a gesture of goodwill. "Making it feel special can help set the right tone." "Do you think it's too much?" Daniel asked, glancing at the flowers. "No, it's perfect," she insisted, now playfully arranging them in a small vase. "You want to show that this is not just any dinner. It's a fresh start." On the day of the dinner, Daniel felt his stomach twist in knots. He delivered the kids to the restaurant first, with Zoe buzzing with anticipation. What if she surprises us with dessert or something? She asked excitedly, oblivious to the undercurrent of anxiety that Daniel felt. He chuckled, encouraging her enthusiasm. I'm sure she'll have some surprises in store. Just remember, this is a new beginning for all of you. As Jennifer arrived, Daniel could see her nervousness in the way she fidgeted with her purse. He held back a sigh, reminding himself that this was about the children. He glanced around at Zoe and Ben, who held hands tightly, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Hey, everyone!" Jennifer greeted, her voice bright yet betraying a hint of tension. She brought with her a sense of unease, a stark contrast to the warmth of the restaurant. "I'm so glad to see you all." Zoe smiled slightly, and Ben waved before retreating to his sister's side. "Hi, Mom," he mumbled, uncertain of how to navigate this new territory. "Let's sit down, shall we?" Daniel said, ushering them to the table. The decorations were colorful, and the aroma of fresh pizza wafted through the air, but the vibrant setting didn't dissipate the lingering tension. Jennifer sat across from the kids, and Daniel settled in beside Claire to keep the atmosphere as open as possible. They all ordered their favorite toppings. This was a chance for nostalgia, an opportunity to reintroduce regular family traditions that had suddenly gone awry. As the pizzas began to arrive, the laughter around them warmed the atmosphere. But Daniel was acutely aware of the silent hesitation that enveloped Jennifer and the kids. "So, how's school going?" Jennifer asked, directing her attention toward Ben, her voice embodying an earnest curiosity. "It's good, he replied, shrinking back slightly. "Math is hard." There was hesitation in his words, a part of him wanting to engage, while another felt tethered to old wounds. "Math can be tricky. I remember that," Jennifer said, her expression earnest. "But I know you're really smart, and you'll get it." Zoe, wanting to steer the conversation towards safer waters, spoke up. "We had soccer practice today, and I scored a goal." Her smile shone brightly as she shared her excitement. Daniel felt a wave of pride wash over him. She was allowing herself to connect, at least a little. "I'm so proud of you," Jennifer exclaimed, her smile genuine as she shifted her focus to Zoe. "You've worked so hard. I can't wait to see you play in your next game." A small flicker of warmth began to spread across the table as the conversation shifted from ice cold to a gentle thaw. Claire watched with a keen eye, encouraging Daniel silently to remain present. He felt a balance gradually forming between them, as if the air had shifted from hostility toward understanding. Around the table, the conversations flowed more freely. Laughter erupted when the pepperoni pizza emerged in a cloud of melted cheese, and Ben took a massive slice that nearly covered his small hands. "Look at this," he giggled, momentarily distracted from the weight of the situation. Jennifer watched the kids' interactions, her smile tinged with an emotion Daniel couldn't quite place. Was it regret? Sadness? Hope? Whatever it was, it reflected the acknowledgement of what had been lost and the potential for rebuilding, even if time would have to play its role. After a few moments of lighthearted banter, Ben mustered the courage to speak again. "Are you going to come to my soccer game next week?" The question hung in the air, vulnerable and raw. Jennifer hesitated, her eyes betraying a flicker of fear. "I would love to. It's so important to me, and I promise I'll put it on my calendar." "We'll be prepared for you to see me score another goal," Zoe chimed in, and Daniel couldn't help but smile at her sparkling enthusiasm. "Definitely." "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Jennifer said, her voice steadying as she met their eyes with sincerity. Soon, dinner wound down, and dessert beckoned. As the waitress arrived with a beautiful ice cream cake adorned with colorful sprinkles, Daniel saw the tension ebb away entirely, replaced by excitement. Zoe's eyes lit up, and even Ben cracked a smile. With the cake now settled in front of them, the moment felt wholly transformative, a tentative celebration of a new chapter. Daniel raised his glass for a toast, to family, old and new, and to opportunities for growth. As the kids followed suit, raising their glasses of soda, Daniel took a moment to appreciate the little triumph. How far they had come from the wreckage and how healing began at the table, with food, laughter, and a willingness to be together. Just as the evening was reaching a peak, Jennifer caught Daniel's gaze, her expression an unspoken thank you. It was a tentative acknowledgement of the bridge they were beginning to build together. In that fleeting moment, Daniel understood that they weren't just piecing together their past, but forging a path toward a future filled with possibility. After dessert, as they made their way out of the restaurant, Daniel felt something inside stir, a gentle warmth, not just from the camaraderie they had shared at the table, but from a sense of relief. This was possible after all. It wouldn't be easy, but together they could begin weaving a new narrative, one built on hope and compassion. On the way home, the car was alight with excitement. "Did you see how happy she looked?" Zoe beamed, her smile infectious. "Yeah, I think she really meant it," Ben added with newfound confidence. Daniel exchanged a glance with Claire, whose expression mirrored his own pride and cautious optimism. As they pulled into the driveway, he took a deep breath, feeling lighter than he had in a long time. This wasn't merely about reconciling with Jennifer, it was about creating a safe space for his children to thrive in. Daniel understood that challenges would arise, but armed with love and open communication, he believed they would weather whatever storms come next. He tucked Zoe and Ben into bed that night, staying until their eyes fluttered closed. It was a peaceful moment, a gentle reminder of how far they had all come and the potential that awaited them. Outside, the stars twinkled brightly in the night sky, reflecting the promise of new beginnings just over the horizon. Daniel lay awake for a while, envisioning a future where their family would stand united, imperfect, resilient, and unwavering in their commitment to one another. The journey ahead promised twists and turns, but he was ready to face it all, together as a family.